Good evening, everybody, and welcome to today's edition of Orqata Reacts. This is a series that I periodically do on my channel. It's not something that I do on a regular basis. Give me 1 second here. Gotta turn on my air purifier. I didn't realize my air purifier wasn't running. But today I am going to be discussing something that I saw online that I thought was fairly interesting, to say the least. I've been seeing on Reddit that people are arguing about whether or not you can support Neuro-sama. Now, Neuro-sama is a AI VTuber created by the talented developer Vedel. And there's a lot of debate online about whether or not you can support something like Neuro-sama if you are anti-generative AI. And this is something that I saw online yesterday, and it has been on my mind for the past day, and I thought I would do a little stream about that and kind of talk about what my thoughts are. And I would like to know what your thoughts are about this situation in the chat throughout today's stream as well. Let me know in the chat. Before we begin, just a little fun fact that Jesus drove a Honda but didn't talk about it because he did not speak of his own accord. Alright, before we get into the main meat and potatoes of our content, this is my February schedule. We have 1 week left in the schedule, so Thursday I'll be doing Orqata Plays Pinball from 8 to 10 p.m. where I select the original pinball game and I subject it to a 10 category scorecard. Friday, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is the TGIF show, where we are going to be doing a topic-based podcast with a lot of different fun and unique segments. And then Saturday, 8 to 10 p.m., we are going to be working more on developing our own original pinball game, Saving Walden. And that's 8 to 10 p.m. Please excuse me for... I'm trying to adjust my microphone and everything. Everything is coming in a little too loud today, so I'm trying to work all of my audio issues out. This is my tentative March schedule to start the next week. All times are in Eastern Standard Time until March 8th, and then we're switching to Daylight Savings Time. Same time when we do make the switch, but Saving Walden is going to be moving from Saturdays to Thursdays, 8 to 10 p.m. And then every other Friday, we're going to be switching between the TGIF show and playing a visual novel game on the empathy algorithm, which looked pretty interesting on Steam, so I thought I'd give that a go. And then Saturdays, we're bringing back Composer CMS development streams, which is free and open source, a website builder written in PHP. This is actually going to be a little bit relevant to what we're talking about today, Composer CMS. So it's just indirectly relevant. So that is my stream schedule. So here's what we're going to be covering today. I have my notepad agenda. We're going to start by talking about the definition of AI and the definition of computers, because we cannot talk about the arguments about the Neuro-sama until we have a common understanding of what AI is. And I would highly recommend that you check out the Vsauce 2's video called The Game That Learns. He talks about a really cool matchbox game involving beats. So you have this 6x6 chessboard and matchboxes, and you play against the computer, and what you do is you choose the appropriate matchbox depending on the setup on the board, and you shake it, and a random colored bead will come out, and the computer makes the move depending on which bead came out. if the computer loses the game, what you do is you discard all of the beads from that losing round. So essentially, the computer learns that those moves contributed to a loss of the game, and it will play better next time. So first off, we need to define a computer before we can define AI. And basically, Vsauce2 amounts it to a computer is just something that takes an input and produces an output. So it doesn't have to be like these fancy devices that we use nowadays, with these electronics and everything like that. You can even consider a human being to be a computer. Like, if you tell a human being, you ask a human being, what's 2 plus 2? And the majority of them are going to say 4. They just computed. They were a computer in that process. They computed, they took the input, 2 plus 2, and they gave you the output of 4. They engaged in the act of computing, and therefore they were the medium of that act of computing, making them the computer. Now let's talk a little bit about artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is a little bit more of a tricky definition, though. We have to take the word artificial intelligence into its two components. The word artificial and the word intelligence. We have to break it down into the two different words. Artificial kind of gives the impression that it is, well, obviously not the natural. And what do we mean by not natural? We mean created by humans, usually. So in this case, computers, or like what we call computers, PCs, these electronic devices, things like that, these are all artificial. You could also classify like man-made chemicals to be artificial. The preservatives and shit that we put in our food. That's all artificial. At least the stuff that we created. Now, intelligence is this one's a little bit harder to define, but in my opinion, it is basically the ability to learn. That's how I define intelligence. The ability to learn. Can something or someone learn given some patterns and data? Can they learn and make interpretations based off of those patterns and data? So we combine that together, and it is some artificial, I can't type, some artificial medium with the capability to learn. Artificial intelligence. And in fact, artificial intelligence has been around for a lot longer than you may think. For a lot of us, we may have only really heard about artificial intelligence within the last few years because of the mainstream push for generative AI, and also large language models. But believe it or not, those are not the only kinds of artificial intelligence that are out there. Artificial intelligence has been around for practically just as long as computers have been around, or at least, electronic computers. I'll give you an example here. Now we're going into Composer CMS, which is the software that I am developing. There is something called, one of the things that I am implementing in Composer CMS is a way to kind of try and detect spam submissions to people's forums. And the way it would do that is it would look for different patterns in how people word their posts. And you would train it over time. So like you would say like this forum post, it was never removed, so it must be okay. This forum post, however, it looks like a moderator deleted it, so I should remember that that post was spam. And so then the software will use algorithms to take what it has learned and predict. So now in the future, whenever somebody posts a piece of content to the forum, it's going to assign different weights. And those weights are going to be like confidence percentages. How confident is the software in believing that what this person is trying to submit is spam? But you don't need a large language model to do this. In fact, some of the oldest algorithms for doing things like spam detection and even like search engine queries rely on things like Bayes. So Bayes is a mathematical algorithm that takes training data and breaks it up. So you have a language stemmer basically. So we'll give an example here. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. Our classic example. With the Bayes algorithm, it will split this sentence up into different bits. So first off, it would split it up by word. So it will split the sentence up word by word. Like so. And then it will categorize each of these words accordingly, whether that the particular post was spam or ham. So if it wasn't spam, aka ham, it will remember all of these words were marked as ham, and it will have a database keeping track of the number of occurrences that have ever happened of each of these words, and the number of times that it has been flagged each for ham and for spam. Now you could go even further than this if you want even more accurate Bayes algorithm detections. You can increase the token size for a Bayes algorithm. So now it will take, it could take 2n. In this case, it could break this up into words of 2. In that case, it will now do this. It will group them together like that. The quick brown the fox jumps over the lazy dog. And again, it will count the number of times those specific word combinations have ever existed in forum posts, and then count whether it was ham or spam. Anyway, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, but basically what my point being is that artificial intelligence has been around way before the large language models have come out. So that's just a little fun fact there. So now that we know what computing is, or computers, and now that we know what artificial intelligence is, what exactly, I didn't put this on my agenda, but what exactly is generative AI, or large language models? I am going to make a disclaimer and tell you that I personally do not know for sure what they are, but based off of my personal understanding, it goes a little bit something like this. Large language models are basically algorithms that are specifically designed to look for patterns in human language. So it helps the artificial intelligence to better understand what you want the computer to do by using natural human language. And it can decipher this. So basically, you train the AI just like you would on a Bayes algorithm. You train it with data. So you feed it different word patterns, and you tell the AI, here are the likely scenarios that the human might want based off of these word patterns in their prompt. And the likeliness that they would want each of those different outcomes. And so the large language model will train on that data and remember it, put it in some sort of database and whatnot. And when the need arises, when somebody makes a prompt, then it will run a computation. Some AIs, especially generative AI, utilize something called a random number generator, or a seed, to produce unique outputs for a given input. So even though, like with a Bayes algorithm, for instance, if the Bayes algorithm, assuming the Bayes algorithm has the same trained data set, if you give it a certain input, you are always going to get the same output. So like, if it says the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, it has 2% confidence that it's spam, then the next time you go and check that same sentence, it's going to tell you again, it thinks there's a 2% chance that it is spam. And the only time that's going to change is if the data set that it has been trained on changes. So like, let's say if something else got flagged for spam and it had the word dog in it. Well, now when you put in the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, the Bayes anti-spam might think that it is now a 6% probability that it is spam. So it is predictable is what I am trying to say. With generative AI, it's not, unless you could pinpoint, all of the different data points and the parameters that go into the data set and the training model, and then correlate them with the seed and the algorithm used to generate whatever it is that you need to generate. It's virtually impossible to know what the AI is going to put out. Because, if you put in the same seed number, then obviously it's going to produce the same output, providing that you have the same parameters and that the AI is using the same data set as well. But otherwise, you're not going to know what it produces. And that's where we get into things like generative images and generative music and things like that. That's why when you go to ChatGPT or Imagen 4, which is Google, or Perchance or whatnot, when you go to try to generate an image, it's different every time because it uses a different seed. And so instead of the AI solely basing its output off of a very strict set of predictions like a Bayes algorithm, it will kind of randomize it a little bit based off of a random number generator. It's actually pretty cool. It's pretty clever. And Neuro-sama, which we're going to talk about her very shortly, she is in the category of generative AI. Because, you give her the same sentence, she's not always going to respond the same way, even if you give her the same sentence. But before we get into Neuro-sama, I do want to go over my personal position on AI. Because we need to establish what my position on AI is in order to talk about my personal opinions and feelings with regards to Neuro-sama. And I actually have a page about this on my website, orqata.live. If you go into the FAQ, what is your stance on artificial intelligence and where do you use it? Now, I make it very clear that I am kind of like in the middle when it comes to AI. I'm not necessarily for it, but I'm also not completely against it either. I know a lot of people within the VTuber community are very strongly against AI. And, that's understandable because the VTuber community is very art focused. It's a very art focused community, and AI is taking away jobs from artists. I get that, and I understand that. However, I do see AI as being a tool to help low income and low talent individuals like myself get started with things like VTubing or whatnot. Now, it's not supposed to be a replacement, and I'm going to get into that in a moment, but it is a good starting ground, I believe. And here are my personal principles with regards to AI. Obviously, don't use AI for illegal purposes, such as infringing on intellectual property, plagiarizing people's content, deepfakes, malware, revenge, CORN, things like that. Anything that would harm an individual or entity, or spreading misinformation. This is another big one that has been a cause of concern with AI, especially when it comes to synthesizing news and current events. AI should never be used to replace the work of a human. It should supplement it. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about this in today's stream. I have a personal. I'm not very fond of vibe coding. Like, I'm okay if a developer uses AI to check something, or to check their work, or to try and debug, try and find a bug that they're not able to catch, or things like that. I'm also okay with them, sort of okay. There's a big asterisk with this one. I'm okay if they use AI to give them inspiration for what to write in terms of code. What I am not okay with is developers who use, quote-unquote developers, who use AI to write the code for them. That's a big no-no in my book, because you are effectively replacing the job of a human developer by doing that, and that is completely against my principles with AI. So you use AI to supplement human work, you don't use it to replace human work. And another thing that I am very strongly against is using AI to replace the job of moderators. Twitch, I'm looking at you. Discord, I'm looking at you. Microsoft, the MSN, I'm looking at you. The comment section, every time I try and make a comment, I sometimes get falsely flagged for violating the community guidelines because of this stupid AI that they use. And I'm not actually saying anything that's offensive. Fix your f***ing shit. Get that AI off of the platform. I'm okay with AI being used to flag things, like if somebody were to say the N-word or something like that, that's a given. But, it should be used to supplement human work. It should be used to tell a human moderator, hey, somebody posted something that I think might be in violation of the terms of service. Moderator should come check this out. It should never act for the human. It should never ban somebody on its own. And I'm talking to you, YouTube, as well, when I say this. Sorry, I have a lot of anger with regards to using AI to replace human moderators. It's been one of the worst things to happen with AI, because I've had so many false positives happen to me because of that, and I hear of other people getting falsely banned because of it from different platforms. Anyway, continuing on. If you can afford to commission a human counterpart to do the same job, you should not be using AI for it, period, regardless of all of my other principles. If you can afford to commission an artist to make art for your game, you should not be using AI for your game. You should be commissioning artists for your game. Period. No exceptions. Because by commissioning an artist, you are supporting their talent, you are supporting their work, you are giving in to the economic process of, giving them money so that they can pay their bills, which then pays the bills of the people who provide them their services, which then pays the bills of people who provide them their services. It's a cyclic function. If you use AI, you're kind of halting that cyclic function, and even if you're paying for AI, you're giving your money over to big corp instead of giving it to indie artists, people who need the money more, and who arguably could provide you a better service. If you do use AI, then any and all portions of your content utilizing AI should be free and non-commercial. That means you should not profit from your use of AI, and that's because you are likely making a profit from stolen content when you do so. It is very hard to certify that AI has been fully trained on ethical sources that do not violate copyright regulations. So, I'm looking at you, ChatGPT. I'm looking at you, Google Gemini. I'm looking at you, Suno AI. I'm looking at a lot of different AI services. Your models are not trained from ethical content. I know that for a fact. You should not be charging and making a profit from other people for that stolen content. The only thing you own from AI generated content is the prompt you wrote, assuming you wrote the prompt. Any and all content that is generated from generative AI is not your intellectual property. I'm going to say that again. Anything and everything that AI generates for you is not your intellectual property. Period. No exceptions. This has been ruled by several courts within the United States and in other countries as well. No exceptions. Even if Suno AI tells you that you own the rights to the music that you generate on their platform, providing you pay them for the premium service, you don't own the copyright of anything that you generate on Suno AI or insert any other AI platform here. It has been ruled by the government. It was not produced by humans, therefore it cannot be copyrighted by humans. And since you do not own said AI-generated content, you must treat it like you are using somebody else's content, and therefore you are obligated to cite when you use it as if you are quoting content from another source. Otherwise, it would be considered plagiarism. So whenever you use AI, you need to tell people that you are using AI. You need to tell people where you use AI. You need to tell people how you're using AI. And you need to tell people what AI model or service you use. I'm talking to you game developers in particular. I'm talking to you artists, quote-unquote artists. By the way, if you use AI to generate art, you're not an artist. If you use AI to vibe code, you're not a developer. You're a vibe coder or a vibe... I don't know what they call the vibe coder equivalent for artists, but you're not an artist, you're not the developer if you use AI for all of that. So please quit calling yourself an artist or a developer if you use AI to generate all of your content or most of your content. If you just use it here and there, but you do a majority of the work yourself, then that's fine. Then that's, you're still a developer and artist in that case, in my eyes. But if you use AI to for the majority of it, then no, you can't call yourself an artist or a developer. And finally, my last principle, this is mainly for companies. If you train AI, then all content you use to train it should have been purchased in accordance with copyright regulations. So in other words, let's give Suno AI as another example. If Suno AI wanted to use real-world songs created by real-world artists, then my principle is that Suno AI has to purchase any and all music tracks that they want to use in their AI. They have to purchase them from the artist, and furthermore, they have to get permission from said artist to train their AI off of that content, and furthermore, they need to negotiate a royalty. So anytime that AI is using their content, the AI service needs to pay a commission to the author or the artist or the composer or whatnot. If you cannot fully certify all of this, then at the very least, you cannot offer your AI or its services for a profit. That goes back to, kind of goes back to this point. So those are my general principles with AI. And then, of course, I have a disclaimer for where I personally use AI. I don't use much AI, but I do use AI in a few places. Alright, now that we have talked about my position on AI, let's get into the meat and potatoes of today's stream, shall we? The AI exception thing that is going around with Neuro-sama. Let's talk about Neuro-sama first, because we need to establish who Neuro-sama is. Neuro-sama is an AI VTuber who is controlled by a developer named Vedal. She has consistently broken the records on Twitch for things like hype trains and viewership and things like that, and generally, she has been seen along with Vedal as one of the top 3 content creators of Twitch. Now, they're not in the top 10, mind you, but they are a top VTuber. Like, I did a search in the top 10 of Twitch last month. I didn't look at this month, but I did look in January. There was not a single VTuber in the top 10 content creators of Twitch. But anyway, point is, Neuro-sama is a very popular VTuber. AI VTuber at that. So, I do need to give a little bit more context though. What makes this situation unique is that Vettel says that he runs Neuro-sama from his own servers, basically. He pays and runs for his own servers. So he doesn't use massive data centers or AI farms or things like that to power Neuro-sama. Additionally, he doesn't use OpenAI or any of these proprietary AI models to power Neuro-sama. He uses open source AI models that he trains on himself. And largely, a lot of the training data that has been fed into Neuro-sama, to my understanding, has been his Twitch chat. DugDug does something similar, although he uses... Does he use OpenAI? I can't remember if DugDug uses OpenAI. But nonetheless, he also... Whatever AI model he uses, he also trains on Twitch chat, from Twitch chat. But let's talk about this post. This is the post in question that has been circulating online and causing quite a stir. This is from Efficient Cicada 926 on AI Wars. I'm going to be pausing frequently throughout reading this to kind of interject my own thoughts, and like I said, if you have any thoughts, feel free to leave them in the chat. So they say, I've been lurking in a few anti-AI spaces and Twitter threads recently, and the cognitive dissonance regarding Neuro-sama is fascinating. For those unaware, Neuro-sama is a fully AI-controlled VTuber created by the developer Vedal. She operates as an autonomous agent that plays games, sings, and banters with Twitch chat in real time. Functionally, she is a sophisticated integration of generative AI technologies. She uses large language models for her personality, text-to-speech for her voice, and computer vision models for gameplay. I did want to mention, in the early versions of Neuro-sama, you didn't really get to see or learn much about the Vedal. The early versions of Neuro-sama were mainly just Neuro-sama, and all she did, other than talk with chat, was play OSU. But she has evolved quite a bit from that. She could play other games now too, like Minecraft, for instance. And a lot of the time now, it's not just her, but she is also either collabing with another human VTuber, or she is with Vettel. Sometimes sometimes she will be on her own, but it was not like her beginning years where it was almost exclusively her. The general consensus among people who aggressively hate the generative AI is that the Neuro-sama is the exception. When pressed on why she gets a pass while other AI uses get piled on, the defense usually relies on three pillars. The indie defense, Vettel is just one guy coding in his room and not a greedy mega corporation. The effort defense, Vettel writes complex code and scripts. He isn't just typing a prompt. And the local defense, Neuro runs on Vettel's PC, not the massive server farm burning down a rainforest. I don't know if this is true or not. Somebody hit me up, but I could have sworn that he's not running it on his PC, but he has. I thought he had his own server rack. I mean, still, it is hosted. It is run locally, but I wouldn't think that. I wouldn't think that Neuro-sama would be capable of being run on a traditional consumer PC. That's something you need a big server rack for, and she would require quite a bit of RAM and power, I would think. So somebody hit me up if you know the answer to that. Here is the hard pill to swallow. If these 3 points are valid justifications for Neuro-sama, they logically validate high-effort local AI art. So in other words, what they're arguing is that if you support the Neuro-sama, then you support people who generate AI art off of their computer using locally sourced models or open source models. And in fact, I don't know if I still have it. What was I might have deleted it. I had a personal AMD version of a AI art generator, but I think I might have gotten rid of it because my computer was not powerful enough, and it kept shutting itself off periodically whenever I tried to use it. But nonetheless, I did have one at some point. I was hoping I could demonstrate it for you, what they mean by generating local AI art. Actually, I could, because I don't use it anymore, but I do believe I still have the Stable Diffusion library installed on my PC, so I could technically fire this up and generate something with it. I wonder if this still works. See, I can't. Do I use the? I think I might have to use this. No model named Piff. Okay, yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't work anymore. I haven't updated this in a while. But anyway, like I said, point being, you can run local AI models on your computer, and they're arguing that if you support the Neuro-sama, then you also support any content that is generated by a local generator. So they say, I'm not talking about the low effort Bing image creator spammers. I'm talking about the advanced users utilizing stable diffusion, which I just mentioned, with comfy UI, ControlNet, manual inpainting, and local fine tuning. These are also tools that are available in that library that I just showed you. So I kind of know what they're talking about. I don't think it has comfy UI or ControlNet though, but it does have the inpainting and fine tuning capabilities. So thinking one is soulful and the other is depth suggests a misunderstanding of the underlying tech. I do want to mention though, even if you are using these tools to manually enhance AI generated artwork, I still take the position that first off, you still don't own the image that was generated, and secondly, you're still not an artist. You're just like somebody who knows how to use AI. Because these tools, inpainting, fine tuning, comfy AI, ControlNet, these are different from the process of actually drawing art on a computer with something like GIMP or Krita or Photoshop. It's an entirely different process, an entirely different tech stack as well. Continuing on, the architecture, they are both wrappers for scraped data. This is true. A massive misconception is the discourse of the idea that Vedel built Neuro from scratch. Vedel built the agent framework, or the code that handles memory, text-to-speech, and decision-making, but he did not build the brain. Neuro runs on the foundation model like Llama 3, Mistral, or GPT. I don't think we know what exactly Neuro-sama runs on. But I do recall Vettel saying something about he runs his own model. Well, he didn't make the model, but he runs it locally is what I'm trying to say. And then AI art runs on the foundation model like SDXL or SD 1.5. SDXL is a beast. You need quite the graphics card to power that. I tried using SDXL. My computer did not like that. But both foundation models were trained on massive, non-consensual, scraped datasets. This is key right here. Even your open source models like Llama and SDXL, which by the way, Llama was made by Meta, FYI, so take that to what you will. And of course, even the Open GPT model is somewhat OpenAI based. So be very cautious of that. But even open source AI models are trained on non-consented scraped datasets, in which they probably didn't pay any royalties or ethically obtain the content either, like purchasing the artwork or whatnot. If AI art is theft because SDXL learned from Leon or scraped art, then Neuro is theft because Llama Mistral learned from Common Crawl or The Pile, which are scraped books, articles, and Reddit threads. And you know what? I think they bring up a valid point. Neuro-sama is not an ethical AI. Let's get that real. They're not as unethical as other types of AI, but Neuro-sama is still not an ethical AI. One cannot logically forgive the scraped text data just because the output is a cute anime voice while condemning the scraped image data. It's the exact same original sin. I think there's one other pillar that they forgot to mention up here, and that is another defense that is frequently used in support of Neuro-sama is the one that I had mentioned, and that is that it is usually not just Neuro-sama on the stream, but it's usually also Vedel or another human that is with her in some capacity. Or even if it is just her, Vedel's in the background monitoring everything and controlling everything. But that's another pillar that I think they should have added to the list as another defense that people use. One, let's see here. Let me. One cannot logically forgive the straight to text data just because the output. Oh, we already read that. My bad. Okay, Comfy UI artist. Anti-AI people often praise Vettel for being a coder and putting in effort. They say that he is not just prompting, but this ignores the workflow of a high-level AI artist using node-based systems. Vettel feeds chat logs and system prompts to the large language model to steer the conversation. Which he does. That's what Vettel does. Comfy UI artist feeds text and IP adapters or image prompts to the diffusion model to steer the composition. I think this might be a little bit of an apples to oranges comparison, and here's why. The text is coming from chat in this case, which is public. I don't know what they mean by text in this case with Comfy UI artists. I'm assuming they mean text that was written by the artists themselves rather than supplied by third-party people. And I would wonder, I don't know the answer to this, but I would want to know if people like Vettel and DugDug have a disclaimer on their website or on their streams or somewhere, a privacy policy disclaimer saying that anything you put into Twitch chat can be used as training data for the AI on the stream. That raises a little bit of a legal and ethical concern, now that I think about it. Do they have that clause? Because I would imagine that especially the European Union would require something like that. I don't know. I don't have the answers to that, I'm just asking the questions. But it kind of makes you think. Alright, continuing on, the control. Vettel writes Python scripts to handle memory and retrieval augmented generation so that she remembers context. An artist builds complex node trees in Comfy UI using ControlNet to force specific anatomy, poses, and composition so that the image isn't random. I mean, you could just use a seed number, but you don't have as much control over that. Okay, fine-tuning. Vettel fine-tunes the model on Twitch logs to make her funny and streamer-brained. Artist trains Laura's on specific styles or concepts to make the image unique and cohesive. I don't know about unique. There's a large debate in the AI space about unique. Is a generative AI capable of creativity? That's a huge debate in the AI community. Do I believe AI is capable of creativity? It depends on what you mean by creativity. You see, AI is just a computer program. At the end of the day, just a computer program. It follows instructions that have been coded in by the people who have developed the AI models and the data sets. And it follows that, along with probably a random number generator of some sort in some cases, and other prompts that have been fed in by the person generating what they're generating. So the AI is going to give out what you want, or what it has been trained to give out. It doesn't have the capability that humans do to be very creative and add a personal touch to what it spits out. So I would argue that AIs are not capable of creativity and they are not capable of making unique images and artwork. So I would say this is a little bit of a misleading statement here, because I mean, I guess what they're trying to say is to make the images like different from a generic generated AI image. I could see them, maybe that's what they meant by the term unique. Alright, continuing on, the human element. Vettel manually curates the stream, intervenes when she loops, and resets her when she breaks. An artist manually inpaints errors, corrects flaws in the Photoshop, and curates the output. At least you would hope they would. Again, I do want to mention that I have a problem with using the term artist here because, as I mentioned before, I don't think people who use AI to a significant degree to make art, quote-unquote art, I don't consider them artists. I just consider them, users of AI to generate art, something like that. Like you have a skill in using AI, but you don't necessarily, just because you can make really good images in AI doesn't mean that you will be able to make really good images in traditional artist programs like Photoshop or GIMP or whatnot on your own without the use of AI. So you're not an artist. You're an AI expert. If Vettel is a creative genius for chaining a large language model to a text-to-speech engine using Python, then the Comfy UI user is a creative genius for chaining ControlNet to a diffusion model using nodes. See, I want to get the more information because I'm not familiar with Comfy UI. These sound like they're on two different stages or levels of technical experience. So it looks like this. Okay, this is in AI. So Comfy UI is basically its own AI. Does it have a? Can we get some screenshots of the Comfy UI interface here? Okay, so you generate the workflows from the looks of it using JSON. Oh, you export them as JSON. You checked out JSON into. Oh, okay, so you do use Python. Oh, that's for module development. I have to convert to Python code. Oh, okay, so that's not necessarily something that you would necessarily do. See, what I'm trying to say is that what Vettel did to piece all of this together, I think requires a different skill set, a different level of expertise in terms of technical skill set than it does for a user to use Comfy UI to make high quality, quote-unquote, AI art. Both are transformative uses of a pre-trained model, both require technical skill, and both are passion projects running locally on high-end consumer hardware. I don't know about that. I would argue that Neuro-sama runs on higher-end consumer hardware than running Comfy UI would. But that's just me. I don't know the guts and everything involved. But considering that, Vettel has a really high viewer count and lots of chat messages and everything, he would need immense power to run Neuro-sama. I don't you would need quite a bit of power probably to use something like Comfy UI, but even then, if you have a really high-end graphics card, you could probably get by with using Comfy UI. But with Neuro-sama, you would need the server rack, basically, and lots of power and RAM. So again, I see their points that they're trying to make, but I kind of feel like that the comparisons are not exactly on a level playing field. Alright, replacement fallacy and the vibe coding reality. The final shield usually deployed is Vettel hires human artists for the models. Yeah, that is true, and that is a good thing. But let's look at the other half of the equation. The code and the voice. Vettel is praised for being a genius programmer, but Vettel himself admits to vibe coding. This is a big one. He openly uses tools like GitHub Codepilot and Cursor to generate large chunks of Neuro's code. And actually, I've seen recently that he has Neuro generate some of her own code as well. So they're right. Vettel is not writing all of the code. Some of that code is generated using AI. So let's talk about the uncomfortable parallel. If an AI artist is a thief because Stable Diffusion was trained on straight images, then Vettel is a thief because GitHub Copilot was trained on billions of lines of straight, open source code, often ignoring licenses. We're actually going to be covering something like this later in today's stream, because I have a part 2 of today's stream where we're going to be talking about the statement made by Ellie on her stance with AI use. AI art versus AI code. The skill argument. Critics mock AI artists for being tech illiterate or just collaging things together. But the vibe coding is literally the programming equivalent of AI art. Maybe. There's a big asterisk with that one. It is pasting together AI-generated scripts and Stack Overflow solutions to make something work. It is the modern version of using Unreal Engine blueprints or asset flipping. I mean, okay, to a large extent, yeah, I will agree with that. Because I was going to argue that the code that gets spat out by the AI when you vibe code is largely fallible and has a lot of security issues and coding issues, little syntax issues and things like that. And you have to go back and edit it, and you have to be able to integrate it in the project that you already have in a cohesive way. But to be fair, an artist has to do the same thing. If they want to improve, if they want to make a high quality AI art, then they have to go in and use those in-painting tools and upscaling and, LoRa, things like that, in order to enhance the image. The replacement argument. An AI artist uses a tool to create an image because they cannot paint it manually. Vettel uses an AI tool to create an entertainer because he cannot be an anime girl streamer manually. I mean, he could. I mean, think about it. We got the medical technology to be able to change your sex. So he could get a sex reassignment surgery or gender reassignment, become a woman, and then become a VTuber off of that. So again, see, this is I have a little bit of a problem with this, because in both cases, the cannot is not true. An AI artist uses a tool to create an image because they cannot paint it manually. Yes, they can. If they learn how to paint and practice, they can do it. Vettel uses an AI tool to create an entertainer because he cannot be an anime girl streamer manually. He could technically be an anime girl streamer. Vettel has literally automated the role of a streamer and a voice actress. If the main grievance with AI is that it replaces human soul and effort, then Neuro-sama should be public enemy number 1. She is the literal definition of replacing a human personality with a machine. And here is, if I do have issues with Neuro-sama, which I do, I mean, I'm not going to deny it. Like I said before, Neuro-sama is not an ethical AI, but she's not as unethical as other AIs are. You know, she is one of the top trending, or the top VTuber streamers out there on Twitch. So you could argue that she is replacing human personality with a machine. At least you could have argued that in her early years when Vedal was not really on stream. Nowadays, though, a lot of her streams, from what I noticed, Vettel is participating in them. Either Vettel or Camila or other VTubers are participating with Neuro-sama. Neuro-sama is not on her own as much as she used to be. So I think Vettel has been addressing that issue. I don't think, like, when Neuro-sama is on stream with other humans, I don't think she's replacing human personality. I think she's complementing human personality in that case. It is only when she's on stream by herself that I believe she is replacing human personality. It is intellectually inconsistent to hold the position that text generation on scraped data is soulful while advanced image generation on scraped data is soulless. The technology is identical. The data sourcing is identical. The local indie dev spirit is identical. I wouldn't go so far to say identical. I would just say similar, but I wouldn't go so far to say identical. The only difference is that fans have formed a parasocial relationship with one. Not true, and I'll talk about that. That's not the only reason. And have been told to hate each other. Have been told to hate the other. Supporting Neuro-sama is by definition being pro-AI. The community might as well own it. Okay, let me, other than what I had already talked about, let me sum up this line. The only difference is that fans have formed a parasocial relationship with one. I don't think that's the only reason why people are in support of Neuro-sama. That is not... I mean, I'm going to say I don't necessarily follow Neuro-sama and Vettel. I don't watch them all that much. I just come across their clips on occasion on YouTube, and sometimes I'll watch their clips. So I'll give that disclaimer. I'm not necessarily a die-hearted Neuro-sama fan. I'm a casual, as you would call it. But I don't watch Neuro-sama because I have a parasocial relationship with Neuro-sama. I watch Neuro-sama because of her interactions with Vedal and with chat. I watch it not for the AI, but for human and AI interaction and how we interact with each other. It's kind of entertaining, actually. So I would argue, again, that parasocial relationship is not the only reason that the people support Neuro-sama. And in fact, you had mentioned that earlier on. Other reasons why people support Neuro-sama is because Vettel is an indie developer. Vettel writes complex codes and scripts, some of them at the least, and that Vettel locally runs Neuro-sama on his own server rack. He doesn't conform to big tech, at least not that we know. So that leads me to the ultimate question. Is Neuro-sama the AI exception, in my opinion? And my answer is, well, it depends on where you draw the line between being pro-AI and anti-AI. A lot of us keep forgetting that we are human. And that, well, at least you are human. I'm a vampire, but I still have human tendencies. So I'm including myself in this equation. Not everything is black and white. You don't have to be completely pro AI or completely anti AI. And in fact, the 99.99% of the human population is not going to be completely pro or anti AI. And I told you right from the beginning, in the beginning of this stream, that I am not pro AI, but I'm also not anti AI. There are specific use cases that I believe AI is okay. I strongly believe in using AI to advance medical science, for instance. Like, if you look at the statistics for folding proteins, ever since AI was introduced, there was a massive explosion in that. Prior, like up to, I think it was the year 2020 or something like that, they had only discovered a few 100,000. They were only able to fold up to a few 100,000 of proteins for, finding medicines and things like that to treat and cure different illnesses. Once AI was introduced into the mix, that number skyrocketed into the millions. So AI has significant potential if it's used correctly and in the right industries. As I said, AI can be wonders in the medical industry. AI can do wonders in other areas too, like helping with tedious tasks. There was a big AI machine that is being used to help separate trash from recycling. That can, one could argue something like that, replaces human jobs, but humans are fallible. Humans are very error prone. AI could have a higher accuracy rate in determining what is trash and recycling, and in consequence can also process that information much quicker and lead to a much quicker cleanup of our environment. So that's where I'm going with this. There are some places where AI can be very beneficial and some places where AI can be very hurtful. I think that AI has been largely not very beneficial in the realm of generative AI. So I'm not particularly fond of generative AI, except for generating ideas. If you are using AI to get inspiration for something, I'm okay with that. It's when you start using AI to do the work for you that then it becomes a problem. Or if AI begins to replace humans out of their livelihoods and jobs, I begin to have a problem with that. Or you use AI in very risky places like self-driving vehicles. Like, that's literally a life or death situation. AI doesn't belong in vehicles. At least not yet. Because it can't understand the human nuances that are involved with driving. Sure, it can, it's more accurate at detecting potential crashes and avoiding crashes, but it doesn't understand human nuances. Think of the trolley problem, for instance. Like, if the computer had to choose between striking a light pole and killing the driver, or striking the vehicle behind them and killing the person in the vehicle behind them, what's the AI going to choose? There's that big moral dilemma. Anyway, I'm kind of going off a side tangent here, but anyway, my point being is whether Neuro-sama is an AI exception largely depends on what you define as good AI versus bad AI. Unfortunately, Neuro-sama is generative AI, and that's where I have most of my problems with AI. So I am going to say that for most people who are anti-AI, Neuro-sama is not going to be your friend. I'm sorry to say that. Neuro-sama is not an ethical AI, certainly not as unethical as other AIs are, but still not ethical. So and they bring up a lot of good points with regards to the AI exception. So yeah, if you support Neuro-sama, you need to be questioning where your beliefs are with regards to other types of locally run AI. With that being said, we are 15 minutes over our break period, so we're going to go ahead and take a break, and when we come back, I have a part 2 to Orqata Reacts. There's another clip that comes in similar vein from Ellie the VTuber, where she talks about her stance on AI, and we're going to talk about that because this one in particular kind of made me a little mad. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Again, I have a little note here. I'm going to mention again when we come back from break, I do not condone harassment, so we do not want to harass Ellie. I am not going to be harassing her or personally attacking her or anything like that. She's a very talented YouTuber, a VTuber, and I really like some of the content that she puts out. It's just sometimes, just like with everybody else, I have a disagreement, and this happens to be one of those disagreements that I want to talk about. I feel like there's a little bit of information that went without consideration in Ellie's decision when she stated her position that AI is fine for coding but not for art, basically. And we're going to talk about that when we come back from break. So everybody stick around. We'll be back on Orqata Reacts in just a few minutes. Hang in there. Alright, welcome back to Orqata Reacts, where we are talking a bit about my personal stance on AI. I don't know if any of you caught what I did there, the little thing that I did there during the break. Normally I play my Magic's Music Maker version of The Clock, the song. But today I did a Suno AI rendition. I thought it would be funny to, well, first off, a little bit funny to be hypocritical and do a Suno AI remix when we're talking about critiques against Suno AI and other generative AI. But also, I wanted to demonstrate by doing that the potential of generative AI to inspire. So what I would want to do is that, you know, I don't have the capability to do really cool musical progressions and effects and things like that. It took something that I made, something simple that I made in music in the Magic's Music Maker and transformed it into this nice funky beat. And what I could do is then take that generative AI piece, and then I could commission an artist or composer rather, somebody who's experienced in making funk music, and tell them, hey, I put something into Suno AI. This is what it gave me. I would like to see if you can compose an original track that, you know, kind of has the same feel as this does. Maybe not, necessarily one-to-one. We don't want that because there are obviously a lot of errors and mistakes in that, in the audio that is generated. But the overall beat is really nice, and you know, if you could get an artist to make a track, an original track with inspired by what the generative AI had produced, then that would be really cool. So that's one way that you can use generative AI, is for inspiration. In that case, it wouldn't be the final product, you know, once I commission an artist to make a funk track inspired by that. It wouldn't be the AI wouldn't be the final product anymore. It would be human. But at the same time, you know, I would be contributing to the ecosystem of artists and composers by, you know, giving a commission for them to work on something and build something. But, you know, they get the money to pay the bills. they have a chance to express their talent in some ways. They have a little bit of inspiration from the generative AI as to what I am looking for, like this nice little funky 120 BPM song that we can use for the break screen, and we could go from there. So, continuing on, we're going to go ahead and move on to part 2, which is Ellie's statement about AI is fine for coding but not for art. For copyright reasons, I'm not going to play this video on my stream, but if you want to check out her statement, it is from Ellie Massive Bot. It's I believe a VTuber Clipper channel. Just search Ellie's brutally honest take on AI vibe coding and large language models. This was actually 11 days ago, but I had just found it on my feed. I didn't know about it until now. So I pulled a few select quotes from the video that I want to talk about. Of course, the first one being is, well, this wasn't a direct quote from her, but she's basically saying that AI is fine for vibe coding, but not for art. Before we continue, as I mentioned before, I don't want any harassment against Ellie. This is just a disagreement. We're not out to seek, blood or vengeance or anything like that. I think, Ellie might just not have the full picture of what goes into the developer community. And so we want to take the educational approach. We want to, be very considerate, and we want to kind of go over why I believe this is sort of a problematic belief to have. I'm a web developer, so not only am I a web developer, but I'm an open source web developer as well. You may have seen some of my Composer CMS development streams. Also saving Walden. That's not web development, but that still is open source development. Those are on some of those are on my YouTube channel, if you want to check those out. But I do want to talk about that. So here are some select quotes that I pulled from that video. If you work in this space, the AI space, you are going to have to, sorry, not the AI space, in the tech space. If you work in the tech space, you are going to have to use some AI tooling. And she talks about, a lot of bosses and stuff like that are mandating their employees to use these AI tools. And it's an unfortunate reality. I mean, she's not wrong, but that doesn't make it right. That doesn't make it a good thing. That doesn't make it ethical. She's not wrong, though. You will have to learn to use AI. It's just what is, it has permeated the job market. And I have a lot of gripes about the use of AI in the job market, particularly with regards to getting a job. As a web developer with 10 plus years of experience, I'm still over 500 applications in and have not gotten one single job interview yet. And I think a lot of it is because of AI replacing the human relations department. So nowadays, when you file an application, there's no human reviewing that application anymore. It's a computer. It's just, if you don't have specific keywords in your paper, it's just gonna toss it out and no human will ever lay eyes on it. Which really sucks because, I'm the type of person who wants to be honest about my skill set. If I'm not skilled in something, I'm not going to say that I'm skilled in it. But that's not what AI wants to see. AI wants to see very specific keywords in your resume because that's what it's been trained on to spot. It doesn't have that human component of being able to decipher that somebody is still going to be skilled despite not knowing that particular skill just yet or not being completely apt in it. And the AI is not going to be able to understand the complexities of I don't want to say diversion, but not delegation either, but diversification. That's what I'm trying to think of. AI is not going to be able to understand the complexities of diversification. I may not be skilled in this, but I could do this. Or maybe, I may not be very, very skilled in this one particular area, but I'm somewhat skilled in these 3 different areas, so I could be a little bit of a jack of all trade. AI is not going to understand that from reading your resume. And I have a huge problem with AI taking over the human relations department of the job market. I also have a problem with having to use AI in the job application process as well. So I'm not just mad at the employers for implementing AI in the human relations department. I'm also mad at applicants for using AI to apply for jobs. Not only is it unethical because you are not representing yourself on your resume when you have AI write it, but you are flooding the job market with these crap resumes and making it harder for legitimate developers and legitimate human beings to get the position. With all of these crap AI generated resumes being submitted to job markets, to job positions, and flooding the job application process, you're now having to file thousands of applications. And I'm not even exaggerating when I'm saying that. You're now having to file thousands of applications before you even get any word or a request for a job interview. I've heard of multiple accounts of people who are skilled and have experience having to file thousands of applications before they get any word from anyone. And that to me is just downright sad. Just 5 years ago, it was 200, 300 applications, and even that was quite a bit. Now, it's 1,000. And if this AI bubble doesn't burst soon, it's going to become 2,000, 3,000. Soon, nobody's going to be able to get the job unless if you already have a job, or you're rich, or you're the employer, or you work in AI. Anyway, enough of that rant. Continuing on, she also mentioned that the reason why AI is really good at programming is not just because programming is something pretty logical and formulaic, but it is also because it's extremely well documented. There's an asterisk on this one. I could see what she is saying, but it is not always true. Yes, there is a lot of documentation for different coding and things like that, but it's not always good documentation. It's not always up-to-date documentation. In fact, a lot of documentation on the web is out of date. It's old. There's so much documentation on the web that it takes just as much effort to update the documentation as it does to update the code now. In some instances. And yeah, AI programming is logical and formulaic, just like AI is, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be good at programming. It really depends on the project. I'm going to tell you from personal experience that AI doesn't always do a good job when helping me with fixing bugs in Composer CMS. You know why that is? It's because I don't follow modern conventions in PHP. We don't follow modern conventions in PHP in Composer CMS. We do things that are not typical of PHP projects in Composer CMS. Like for instance, I can't zoom in. I'll have to use Notepad for this. We don't use get directly. That's insecure. Very insecure. We have things like get the parameter string, get parameter integer functions. And that helps us sanitize input from, it's same for post as well. So we use those in order to sanitize human input, so that, for security reasons. That's not conventional. A lot of people just directly use what is supplied by PHP, and then use I can't remember what exactly the function name is, but I think it's like filter var or something like that. PHP has its own validate. It's something, I forget what it is, but PHP has its own function to validate parameters, and people will sometimes use that to validate parameters. But we go further than that, because we don't believe, at least in our use case, we don't believe PHP covers all of the security cases that we need to cover. So it's things like that. And another thing, we don't use namespaces in the code, as you notice. That's very common nowadays in PHP, is to use namespaces. We don't use namespaces. It's a very functional level program, rather than the object-oriented program. That's not typical in most PHP projects nowadays. Most PHP projects use object-oriented programming. We have a very specific coding standard. I mean, sure, it follows PSR 12 standards for PHP, but we also have additional standards, like you have to have your brace on the next line when defining a function. You can't have it over here. This is wrong. You have to have a space before the colon and after the colon before defining the type, the return type of a function. That's not typical of PHP. We use snake case, not camel case. Also not typical in PHP projects of nowadays. So there are a lot of different things that we use in this project that are not typical of most PHP projects that are out there. And AI is often doesn't understand that. And whatever code it will suggest or spit out, it's not going to follow those conventions. It's going to be very insecure. It's not going to tie into the security features that we have implemented in Composer CMS. So my point being is, AI is good at programming when you're using a project that largely conforms to modern and common conventions. If you're doing a lot of unique stuff, AI is not going to work for you. It's going to do a lot of crazy stuff. It's going to hallucinate. It's going to give you, syntax errors. It's going to give you bad code. It's going to give you insecure code. It's going to give you redundant code. She also says, I have always felt like everyone's code is for everybody. As an open source girly, I have always felt like it is perfectly fine to copy and paste. This is not true. Not everyone's code is for everybody, and we're going to talk about this by comparing open source code to Create the Commons art and vice versa. And there's other stuff too. Okay, so she mentions, she mentions open source code. What is open source code? That basically means that the source code... I'm having a heck of a time typing today. I can't type and talk at the same time, believe it or not. That means that the source code is open. In other words, you can download it, see it, and modify it. what does Creative Commons mean? So this is the art equivalent of open source, kind of, sorta. Actually, you know what? This is a bad example. It's not open source that I should be comparing Creative Commons to. It's the not to mix it up. It's the MIT license that I should be comparing it to. So the MIT is an open and permissible license, which basically states that you are free to download, distribute, modify, fork, do whatever you want to this program. However, there is no warranty, which means we're not responsible for anything wrong that happens from your use of the program. If you lose any data, if your servers crash or whatnot, we're not liable. Additionally, sometimes there is a requirement for attribution, which means that you have to keep the copyright header or whatnot in the code, or a changelog or whatnot. There could be like little individual requirements, but it is quite a permissive license. Creative Commons in the art world is kind of similar to that, although Creative Commons has different divisions. Like there's the Creative Commons 0, there's Creative Commons like A, CC, no, not CC. There's a few of them. I can't remember off of the top of my head what they are, but what the acronym is at least. But what I do know is that generally Creative Commons means royalty free. You are free to use this image in your personal projects under certain conditions. Those conditions can be non-commercial use. It could be that you have to provide attribution. It could be that you are not allowed to make any derivatives of the work, which means you can't edit it. You know, things like that. So it's kind of similar to the MIT license in the developer world. Creative Commons is basically the MIT of or the GPL. That's what I'm trying to think of. The GPL license, basically the MIT or GPL license of the art world. Okay, now that we have established that, there is the other side of the spectrum, and that is copyrighted work. For art, it's copyrighted, which means that you are not allowed to use this without permission in anything. And furthermore, you are usually required to pay a royalty if you do get permission. That's for art. In the developer world, we call this proprietary. I cannot type and talk at the same time. So in the developer world, proprietary means that it is closed source. Usually means it's closed source, which means you cannot see the code. It is usually like obfuscated or encrypted or compiled into a binary, which is like an executable file. So it is closed source. You're not allowed to reverse engineer it. You are not allowed to pirate it. That is to download it without paying for it. You know, things like that. So that is the that is the code equivalent of a copyrighted work in the artist world. Is proprietary software, proprietary code, whatnot. So, Ellie, I'm sorry to say, but when you say you have always felt like everyone's code is for everybody, that is not true. Because we have proprietary code, which belongs to whomever wrote the code. Nobody else is allowed to modify it in any way, or reverse engineer it, or do anything like that. Now, do I personally believe in proprietary software? I have issues with proprietary software. I'm an open source type of person as well. I like supporting the open source community and trying to use open source software where I can. But, I don't want to ignore the facts here. There is proprietary software everywhere, and, their code is not for the taking. Continuing on. So now let's go to open source. Alright, so we discussed the differences between them. Alright, okay, but what if we are talking about a piece of open source code? Why shouldn't I use AI to vibe code open source code? I mean, open source code is free and open source, right? Like, anybody can download it for free, anybody can modify it, anybody can use it, anybody can fork it. Well, that comes down to a matter of ethics. In the free and open source community, we have the expectation to contribute back for your use of the software. You see, in the traditional ecosystem of development with proprietary software, what you do is, in order to use the software, you pay money. You pay money, you get software. That money goes into the pockets of hopefully the developers. I mean, there's this ethical issue with CEOs pocketing all of it and everything like that, but we're not going to get into that today. Money goes to developers, which then goes to paying their bills and their livelihoods. That is the economic cycle, and then because they can pay their bills, then they have time. That feeds into them having time to develop the software and to develop and maintain the software. That is the economic cycle of proprietary software. And then by developing and maintaining the software, then you have incentive to pay money and get the software, which then goes back into the cycle again. Now let's talk about the FOSS community. Uh-oh, we have a problem. We don't have money. We don't have people paying money to get the software. They can just get the software. Okay. Well, if people could freely download free and open source software, and they could do pretty much whatever they want with that software, then how are they going to be able to maintain the software? There's no money involved. They can't pay their bills, so that means they have to do something else to be able to pay their bills. They have to spend their time at a job, something to give them money in order for them to pay their bills. And then that would in turn give them time to develop and maintain their free and open source software, right? How do you get that money? Professional support. You could also get that money through sponsorships, internships. Like sometimes companies will pay, I guess this also falls under sponsorships as well, but sometimes companies will pay interns to develop the software. Donations, of course. That's the obvious one. Things like that. Code. We're going to talk into so with the free and what's nice about the free and open source software community is that monetary currency is not the only way that you can give back into the ecosystem. We'll get into that in a moment, but let's talk about this. Professional support. A developer of a free and open source software community might elect to launch a side company or entity of some sort to provide professional support for said software. Remember what I said about the MIT license? No warranty. When you download free and open source software, it usually falls under MIT, GPL, CPAL, Apache, things like that, those licenses. And they pretty much all say you get the no warranty for the use of the software. But what if you are running critical infrastructure? A majority of the web is powered by Linux. Linux is free and open source software. But the Linux, of course, has no warranty. Where do you get the support to be able to keep your critical infrastructure online and operable? That's where you go professional support. Red Hat Linux is an example of this. They offer professional support. I mean, Ubuntu is also an example with the company Canonical. Things like that. They have these separate entities that offer professional support for free and open source software. So these are developers who will help you install and maintain and update and use this software. Sponsorships. This is what companies may elect to sponsor a free and open source software in exchange for something. Maybe it's like a advertisement, logo on the website, their name and something, comment in one of the code files, things like that. So companies are monetarily supporting a free and open source project by giving them money, but it's not a donation because they're expecting something in return, like some sort of advertisement or something like that. Internship, as I mentioned, this is more of an educational thing, so free and open source software might be used in an educational setting to help teach people on the different technologies that are being used in development. And sometimes the institution, this goes with sponsorship or donation. The institution will make a contribution to the free and open source programs and software, or even elect to help maintain them in exchange for being able to continue to use that code in the educational setting. You could have, people who will pay you to develop free and open source software for their company. Generally, it doesn't happen. Usually, if somebody pays you to develop something, they want you to make it proprietary because they don't want other companies using that code. But sometimes you will have somebody hired to do free and open source software. They're not always internships either. They could be a full-on employee as well. And then, of course, you have donations, which are just people who are generally thankful that this piece of software exists. They want to give you they want to be able to buy you a coffee or something like that in order to see this project continue to be able to be maintained. And so they'll give you a donation. They want nothing in return. They're just hoping that the project can continue to live on. But as I mentioned before, there are non-monetary ways that people can contribute to free and open source software. Let's talk about that. We have code. We have community support. Those are the two big ones that I could think of off of the top of my head. Testing, reporting bugs is the other one. This kind of goes a little bit no Grammarly. That is not wrong because these are two fundamentally different concepts. There's supposed to be a space between that slash. Because we're not testing bugs. We're testing or reporting bugs. Grammarly. Anyway, point being, code. You could contribute to a free and open source project by contributing code. Maybe you have a little bit of spare time on your hands and like somebody requested a feature that they want to see in the software. They may not have the skills to develop it, but you do. So you use your free time to develop it, make a push to the repository, and hope that the maintainer of the project accepts your code and puts it in the library. And wow, you could put that on a resume as well. So it's a win-win for both. It's a win for the software because they got free code from you, new feature or bug fix or whatnot. And it's a win for you because you can put that on a resume. There's community support. So unlike professional support, this is just people hanging out in forums and chat rooms, helping each other out, or communicating on Stack Overflow, things like that, on answers to different questions regarding the software. It's not professional, as in you don't pay money. It's free support, but free support always comes with no warranty. And that also means that there is no expectation. So just because you ask a question doesn't necessarily mean you're going to receive an answer when it comes to community support, or a satisfactory answer, or a timely answer at that. With professional support, there is that expectation because you're paying somebody to provide you that support. And now we talk about testing and reporting bugs. You got beta software, as we call it, alpha software, beta software that's not quite ready yet for public release, but we need some real-world testing scenarios. So you might have people who will volunteer to install that software on their servers. They'll provide the details about the server, like the hardware and software that's running on the server. And then they'll report any issues that they find running that software on that particular development or environment, rather. So that's another non-monetary way that people can contribute to free and open source software. Alright, I spent a lot of time talking about this. Why did I talk about this? If you put AI into the mix, you get rid of all of this, except the get software part. You get rid of it. You destroy the economic cycle of free and open source software. How? Well, if I'm running free and open source software and I have some sort of issue with it, and if I just go to AI and have AI generate an answer for me, where's the professional support to, or the donation to help fund the project? I mean, the developers need some income in order to be able to pay their bills and to spend time maintaining this project. Where are those code contributions coming from? AI is not going to contribute what it generates to the repository. Community support. AI is only giving you the answer. It's not posting the answer publicly in the forum so that anybody else who may be having the same issue could also see that answer and fix the issue themselves on their end. AI completely takes the community part away from free and open source software. And AI, sure, it could test bugs, sort of, if you have the right testing suite and everything like that, and if it could get the appropriate contextual awareness of the project. But it's often not perfect. And furthermore, it doesn't report bugs automatically, usually. So like you may be using AI to test for and find the bugs in your particular instance or install of the free and open source software, but you are not contributing back. Like if you find a bug, you're fixing it on your end, but you're not telling the developers, hey, there's a bug here. This might be affecting other people who are using the software. Maybe this fix could help them as well. So, continuing on, I'm running out of time. Unfortunately, we're already at 10 o'clock. But I did cover necessity of financial backing. That took a lot longer than I expected. I want to briefly touch on a Core.js Babel incident. We'll just do Core.js for the time's sake. There was an incident back in 2023, actually almost exactly 3 years ago, with a library in JavaScript called Core.js. What happened? Well, in short, the maintainer of Core.js noticed that their library was being used in millions of different installs in different websites and things like that. Look at this. Top websites like Amazon.com was using it, Yahoo.com was using it, Microsoft was using it, Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, VK, Twitch TV, Zoom. They were using Core.js, but they weren't contributing back to the free and open source ecosystem. These are large companies with millions of dollars, and they didn't even think for a second, oh, maybe we could give $20 or something. We could help them. We could give them a little bit of financial backing in exchange for us using this piece of software. They're leeching off of his development time to maintain the library. Furthermore, here's a little diagram to kind of represent Core.js is such a fundamental library because it has polyfills for JavaScript to make other applications work. That if Core.js is not maintained, that this whole tower is going to collapse. Add on to the fact that the individual got into an incident in Russia where he accidentally, I think, hit a couple of people on the street that he didn't see, and he had to pay reparations for damages or face prison time. So that's how it works in Russia. So that took $80,000 plus away from his financial backing. Not his financial backing, but his finances. And then you have people like this who are making these memes about how Core.js is always asking for funding and financial support. Well, yeah, because millions of people are using Core.js and barely anybody was providing any support for this guy. And then you have other people. I'm going to warn you ahead of time. There is some strong language in this post. So there is the C word that is offensive to women, and it means another word for a woman's private parts. So I'm just giving you a heads up there. In this, it's not the developer who's saying it. It was a comment that somebody made about him. So there's a lot of hate about this developer and how he's entitled for asking so much for finances and things like that. So this kind of thing, I hate to say it, is a regular occurrence in the free and open source community, because we have people that think that the developers are the ones who are entitled for asking for financial support. But really, the developers are maintaining and developing these pieces of software for you to use for free at your own discretion, however you want to use it. So where does the entitlement actually lie? Does it lie on the developer, or does it lie on the user who thinks that free and open source software, that means that I don't have to give anything back? That's not how it works in free and open source software. I hate to say it. If nobody ever gave anything back, then we wouldn't have free and open source software, because nobody would be able to afford to make free and open source software. And in fact, I've seen numerous free and open source pieces of software and projects go under the water because of this very thing. They would either get bought out by big companies, and then they would be turned into proprietary software. I hate that, by the way, when that happens. Luckily, because of the free and open source nature, when that happens, you could always fork it into another free and open source project. Thankfully. So it's not the end of the line if a company picks up a piece of software and turns it proprietary. But it's still bad. Or the project just doesn't get maintained anymore, and it doesn't get updated, and there are security issues start piling up, bugs start piling up as technology evolves, things like that, because nobody has the time to maintain it. Nobody's getting paid to maintain it, so nobody's able to afford to maintain it. So a lot of open source software goes under the water because of that. Because users of open source software feel that they are entitled to use it without ever giving anything back to the community. And it's really sad. And once again, generative AI takes all of those possibilities away. It takes all of the possibilities of giving back to the free and open source community away in exchange for convenience. She does bring up a couple of points that I do like, though. First off, you're going to have code, then when you vibe code, you're going to have code and you don't know what it does. And this is an issue that I think is starting to actually rear its ugly head. Some people speculate that Amazon and Cloudflare and Alphabet or Google or YouTube are implementing AI-generated code, and it's resulting in a lot of these recent frequent downtimes. So I would not doubt that, and she brings up a really good point. Another thing is she brings employee turnover. I didn't write this down, but I do remember her bringing up employee turnaround. When one employee generates something from vibe coding, the next employee is not going to know what the heck it does. I mean, sure, there might be comments generated by the AI itself, but they're not always good. Sometimes they're excessive, even. And what AI generates is rarely ever cohesive with the project itself. It's usually out of place and inefficient at that. Of course, you got the issues of security and security bugs and etc., etc. She also goes on and she brings up a really good point. I mean, it is a kind of a funny comparison, but it is somewhat valid. She compares vibe coding to breastfeeding, and that in the olden days, pretty much everybody breastfed. But as time went on, and the risks of the diseases to the infant were discovered, technology was developed to come up with the baby formula. And now you don't have to breastfeed, you can give baby formula, which is all nice. It's nice to have that option, but she mentioned that the baby formula product was pushed so hard by the companies that a lot of people who didn't need to use baby formula, who were perfectly capable of breastfeeding, decided to go with the baby formula anyway. And so we are losing out on the instinctual capability. Infants are losing out on the instinctual capability of being able to latch on to the breast of the woman in order to get the breast milk. And she compares that with vibe coding. Instead of people asking on Stack Overflow, Reddit, or finding the project that they're on and opening issues on that particular project, they're going to AI, and AI gives them the answers. They're not trying to problem solve themselves, so letting AI do all the work. And we're going to, it's already happening, we're going to see people losing their skills in technology and in development and in etc., etc. And we're going to have more and more people who are just turning to AI to make everything. It's a really sad state of affairs. Briefly, I also want to mention Faker and Color.js. These were two libraries that, just like Core.js, were not supposedly, allegedly, not getting the funding that they needed in order for the original maintainer to maintain them. But the maintainer decided that they've had it with big corporation leeching off of these libraries and using them without giving anything back to the free and open source community, that he intentionally put malware in these libraries. So instead of them doing what they're supposed to do, they spat out a lot of random characters into the console and made applications crash. And it became such a big uproar that GitHub basically prevented him from being able to maintain his own project. NPM, which is the package repository for JavaScript, had to revert the malicious version from their repository so that everybody could go back to the working version of these utilities. And pretty much that developer is now completely ostracized from the community. And this brings up a really ethical point, I think, with regards to ownership of your code. In the free and open source community, do you own the code that you write? You know, this is a really good question to ask. Do you own the code that you write in the free and open source community? You know, in the free and open source community, we value openness, we value sharing, being able to share that code and build off of the experience of each other. So does owning your own code and maintaining ownership of that, does that in some way interfere with this openness of the open source community? Does it interfere with the cycle of the ecosystem of the open source community? What do I think? It's tough to say. What I do think, it was definitely not good what the original developer of these libraries did, right? That was not cool. But I understand the frustration that he was going through. To his big tech, leeching off of his libraries yet again. What do I think he could have done or should have done instead? I think he should have I think he should have stopped maintaining these two libraries and either let somebody else take over or whatnot. He should have stopped maintaining these and he should have forked them into a proprietary version of them that he maintained in exchange for contracts with these companies that want to use them. So, if he would have done that, we would now have two versions of these libraries. We would still have the free and open source version for those who enjoy the open nature of the code and of the ecosystem. But again, no warranty. Whereas the companies that rely on critical infrastructure and whatnot, they can contract him for the proprietary version of these libraries, which are maybe they're better maintained, or maybe they're specifically tailored to run at a higher scale for companies. And this one would be warranted, so that he could help with anything that happens, like if anything goes wrong or whatnot with those libraries. So he would have a constant income stream because of the contracts between him and the companies, and he would be able to maintain the proprietary version of these libraries. And maybe, and some people do this, they can downstream what they develop from the proprietary version into the free and open source version. I think Red Hat did that at the one point, if I recall correctly. Yeah, Red Hat so before CentOS 8, Red Hat did that with CentOS. So whatever Red Hat developed, it will later be, once it was stable and everything, it would be downstreamed into CentOS, which was free and open source, so that those in the Fuzz community can enjoy some of those features. So, in the conclusion, Ellie, I do see where you're coming from with some of the things that you said, but I would caution you with that particular stance of AI. I don't think saying AI is fine for coding is a really a good-natured position, if you know what I'm saying, because coders and developers are more similar to artists than you may think, and a lot of this, and I even talked about that. It's funny how these all connect. The similarities between developers and AI artists, at least, have been mentioned when I discussed Neuro-sama. So I don't think AI is fine for vibe coding. It takes away the whole nature of a free and open source community, and it makes it harder for developers in the free and open source community to be able to maintain the software in that space, because they're not getting the feedback that they so need, or the monetary support to be able to continue what they're doing. AI is taking all of that away. Alright, thank you everybody for tuning in into today's edition of Orqata Reacts, and remember that Jesus drove a Honda but didn't talk about it, for I did not speak of my own accord. Anyway, here is my stream schedule for the rest of this week. On Thursday from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to be playing an original pinball game and subjecting it to a 10-category scorecard criteria critique. On the Friday from 8 to 10 p.m. is the TGIF show, where we are going to be taking a topic and doing some fun skits. Saturday, 8 to 10 p.m., we're going to be working on the Saving Walden, which is an original pinball game that I am developing. Here is my tentative March schedule. Eastern Standard Time up until March 8th, and then Eastern Daylight Time afterwards. On Thursdays, 8 to 10 p.m., so instead of Saturdays, it'll be Thursdays, we'll be developing Saving Walden. Then on the Friday the 6th and the 20th from 8 to 10, we will be playing a visual novel called The Empathy Algorithm. This is free to play and available on Steam for anybody else who wants to give it a try. I know nothing about it, so we're going to jump in, we're going to play it, and then critique it. It looked interesting to me, so. TGIF show will be Friday the 13th to 27th, 8 to 10 p.m. And then the Composer CMS, which is the PHP open source software for building websites that I told you about, we'll be doing those streams again, Saturdays 8 to 10 p.m. Be sure to check me out at orqata.live to learn more about me, about the colony scores that you see on my screen, about the stream boss, The redeems, the ducats, everything you need to know about me is on that website. You can also join my Discord by going to orqata.live/discord. I would highly recommend that you do so. And you will get the latest updates and schedule changes and cancellations. Additionally, I post the rewards for when the stream boss is defeated, and at every quarter for the winning bat colony, whoever had the most points. So I post the reward in there for you to claim. With that being said, thank you for tuning in. I'm going to rest my voice now. Have a great day, and until next time.